Have you ever noticed that life feels lighter, more magical when you truly let go? When you stop trying to control everything and just breathe? Today I'm going to share something that changed my life completely, and I know it will change yours too. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your breath. This simple act of being present, of letting go, this is where your power lies. Not in struggling, not in fighting, but in surrendering to the infinite intelligence within you. You see, most people live their entire lives in a state of resistance. They're constantly pushing against what is, fighting what could be, worrying about what might be. But I'm here to tell you something that might shock you. The universe isn't separate from you. It's an extension of your consciousness. Think about how you feel when you're truly happy. In those moments, you're not trying to control anything. You're simply being. This state of being, this natural flow, this is your true power. But most never realize this because they're too busy trying to make things happen. Let me share something profound with you. Every time you worry about the future, every time you stress about how something will work out, you're actually resisting the natural flow of life. You're telling the universe you don't trust it. And what you resist persists. I remember a time when I was constantly trying to control everything in my life. Every detail, every outcome. I was exhausted, frustrated, and nothing seemed to work out the way I wanted. Then I discovered something that changed everything. The power of letting go. You see, letting go isn't about giving up. It's about understanding that there's an intelligence far greater than your conscious mind at work. When you truly grasp this, something magical happens. Life starts working for you instead of against you. Think about when you're falling asleep. You don't try to fall asleep, do you? You relax and allow sleep to come. This same principle applies to everything in life. The more you try to force things, the more they resist. The more you let go and trust, the more naturally things flow. Most people approach life like they're swimming upstream, constantly fighting against the current. But what if I told you that everything you want is actually downstream? What if all you need to do is stop struggling and allow yourself to flow with life instead of against it? The universe operates through perfect law. Just as gravity doesn't sometimes work and sometimes doesn't, it's always working. The law of consciousness is always working too. Your only job is to align yourself with it through the art of letting go. Consider this. When you plant a seed in the ground, you don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You trust the process. You know that the seed contains everything it needs to become what it's meant to be. Your desires are exactly the same. Most people don't realize that they're constant checking their anxiety, their need to control. These are the very things preventing their desires from manifesting. It's like constantly digging up the seed to see if it's growing. When you truly understand the art of letting go, you'll notice something remarkable. Things start working out better than you could have planned. It's as if life itself is orchestrating events in your favor. But this can only happen when you get out of your own way. Think about breathing for a moment. You don't control each breath, do you? There's something within you that knows exactly how to breathe, how to digest food, how to make your heart beat. This same intelligence knows exactly how to bring your desires to fruition. I've observed that most people live in a state of constant tension. They're always trying to figure everything out, always trying to make things happen. But life doesn't work that way. Life unfolds naturally when you allow it to. Consider how a flower blooms. It doesn't strain or struggle. It doesn't try to force its petals open. It simply allows the process to unfold naturally. This is exactly how manifestation works, through allowing, not forcing. The secret that most miss is this: your natural state is one of ease and flow. Struggle is learned. Anxiety is learned. Trust and relaxation are your natural state, just as they were when you were a small child. Most never realize that their power lies not in doing, but in being. When you're in the right state of consciousness, life moves you toward your desires automatically. You don't have to figure out how. I think about when you're in a state of complete trust. Notice how everything seems to work out effortlessly. This isn't coincidence. This is the natural result of letting go and allowing the infinite intelligence within you to work on your behalf. Your only job is to maintain the state of the wish fulfilled. Not through effort or strain, but through relaxed awareness. Just as you naturally accept that the sun will rise tomorrow, accept that what you desire is already yours. I've watched countless people struggle because they think they need to make things happen. But I tell you this, everything you want is already created. Your job is simply to relax into the state where it exists. Consider how easily water flows around obstacles. It doesn't fight them. It doesn't try to break them down. It simply finds another way. This is how you should move through life, with fluid adaptability and trust. Most people approach manifestation like it's a battle to be won. But I tell you this, it's a garden to be tended. Plant your seed, your desire, water it with attention, and then let it grow naturally. Think about when you're deeply relaxed, perhaps just before falling asleep. In those moments, your mind isn't racing to solve problems. You're simply being. This state of relaxed awareness is where your true power lies. Most never understand that their anxiety about outcomes is actually creating resistance to those very outcomes. It's like trying to drive with one foot on the gas and one on the brake. Release the brake of worry and watch how naturally things begin to flow. I've witnessed remarkable transformations when people finally grasp this truth, that their only job is to maintain the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not through effort or strain, but through relaxed, natural knowing. Consider how effortlessly your heart beats, how naturally your lungs breathe, how perfectly your body maintains its temperature. This same intelligence knows exactly how to bring your desires into reality. Trust it. The secret that transforms lives is this: your external world must conform to your internal state. But this doesn't happen through force. It happens through surrender, through letting go of the how, and trusting in the perfect law. Think about times when things worked out perfectly without your intervention. Remember that feeling of pleasant surprise? That's what happens when you get out of your own way and allow life to work for you. Most people live in a state of constant mental chatter, always trying to figure everything out. But I tell you this, your intellectual mind is not equipped to orchestrate the infinite details required to manifest your desires. Let go and trust. Consider how naturally a river flows to the ocean. It doesn't stress about the path. It doesn't worry about obstacles. It simply flows, knowing it will reach its destination. This is how you should live, in complete trust of the process. Your power lies in your ability to feel the reality of your desire now, while completely letting go of how it will manifest. The how is not your concern. Your only concern is maintaining the state of having already received. I've observed that those who manifest most easily are those who understand that letting go isn't giving up. It's surrendering to a higher intelligence that knows far better than their conscious mind how to bring about their desires. Think about when you're truly in the flow of something you love. Time disappears, worry vanishes, and everything seems to happen perfectly. This state of flow is your natural state. The more you trust, the more you experience it. Most never realize that their power lies in their ability to be still. Not a physical stillness, but a mental stillness. When your mind is still, when you're truly at peace with where you are, that's when magic happens. Consider how a seed becomes a tree. It doesn't happen through force or struggle. It happens through a natural unfolding, a perfect sequence of events that the seed doesn't need to control or understand. Think about how naturally you trust that night will turn to day. You don't lie awake wondering if the sun will rise. This same level of natural trust must be applied to everything you desire. It's not blind faith. It's understanding the law. Most people live in a state of constant seeking, always looking for their desire to manifest. But this very state of seeking implies that what you want is absent. The secret is to live as if you already have what you desire. I've watched people struggle for years because they keep trying to control the process. But when they finally let go, when they truly surrender to the perfect law within them, everything begins to shift effortlessly. Consider how easily you accept your own reflection in a mirror. There's no doubt, no questioning. This same level of natural acceptance must be applied to your desired state. Feel it as real as your reflection. The secret that changes everything is this: your consciousness is the only reality. Everything else is an effect, a shadow of your state. But most people spend their lives trying to change the shadow instead of changing the state that cast it. Think about when you're completely absorbed in something you love. You're not trying to make anything happen. You're simply being. This state of pure being, free from anxiety and effort, is where true creation occurs. Most never realize that their power lies in their ability to be still and know. Not intellectual knowing, but a deep, unshakable knowing that transcends logic and external evidence. Consider how naturally water takes the shape of its container. Your consciousness is like water. It takes the shape of whatever state you pour it into. Choose your state wisely, for it will manifest in your world. Your external reality is nothing more than your internal state pushed out. But this doesn't mean you need to force changes. It means you need to relax into the state where what you desire already exists. I've observed that those who manifest most easily are those who understand that letting go isn't a passive state. It's an active trust in the perfect law. They know that what they desire is already theirs in consciousness. Think about how you feel when you're completely at peace. There's no struggle, no effort, no trying to make things happen. This state of peace is actually your most powerful creative state. Most people approach their desires like they're reaching for something far away. But I tell you this, your desire isn't out there somewhere. It's a state of consciousness that you must occupy now. Consider how naturally you accept that spring follows winter. You don't worry about it. You don't try to make it happen. This same natural acceptance must be applied to the fulfillment of your desires. Think about the feeling of complete certainty you have about simple facts, like knowing your own name. That same level of certainty, that same absence of doubt, must be applied to your desires, not through force, but through understanding. Most people live in constant anticipation, always waiting for their desire to manifest. But this state of waiting keeps pushing the manifestation into an endless future. The secret is to live as if it's already done. I've witnessed the most remarkable transformations when people finally grasp that their power lies not in doing, but in being. When they stop trying to make things happen and start allowing things to unfold naturally. Consider how effortlessly you fall asleep when you're truly tired. You don't force it, you allow it. This same principle applies to manifestation. The more you try to force it, the more it eludes you. The more you allow, the more naturally it comes. The secret that most miss is this: your imagination isn't showing you possibilities. It's showing you realities that already exist in consciousness. Your job is simply to occupy the state where your desire exists. Think about how you feel when you remember something that actually happened. There's a certain solidity to it, a realness. Your desired state must feel just as solid, just as real, just as unquestionable. Most never realize that their power lies in their ability to feel the reality of their desire more intensely than they feel current circumstances. When you master this, manifestation becomes automatic. Consider how naturally you accept the changing of seasons. You don't resist it, you don't doubt it. This same natural acceptance must be applied to the unfolding of your desires. Your consciousness is like a signal you're constantly broadcasting to the universe. The clearer the signal, meaning the more stable your state, the faster the manifestation. But clarity comes through relaxation, not effort. I've observed that those who manifest most easily are those who understand that circumstances don't create state. State creates circumstances. They lie from the end, feeling it real now. Think about how you feel when you're absolutely certain about something. You don't try to make it true, you know it's true. This is the feeling state that manifests instantly. Most people approach manifestation like it's something they need to figure out. But I tell you this, it's already figured out. Your only job is to occupy the state where what you desire already exists. Consider how naturally you accept your own existence. You don't question it, you don't doubt it. This same level of unquestionable acceptance must be applied to your desired state. Think about how easily you accept that your reflection in a mirror is yours. There's no doubt, no questioning. This same natural acceptance must be applied to your desires. They are as much yours as your reflection. Most people live in a state of constant comparison, always measuring where they are against where they want to be. But this very act of comparison keeps them stuck in the state of wanting. The secret is to live from the state of having. I've watched countless individuals transform their entire life when they finally understood that their power isn't in changing thinking. Consider how naturally you accept that when you drop something, it will fall. You don't doubt gravity. This same unwavering acceptance must be applied to the law of consciousness. It's just as reliable as gravity. The secret that changes everything is this: your external world has no choice but to reflect your inner state. It's not personal, it's law. Just as a mirror must reflect what stands before it, your world must reflect your consciousness. Think about how you feel when you're completely immersed in doing something you love. Time disappears, worry vanishes, and you're simply being. This pure state of being is where true creative power lies. Most never realize that every moment of discomfort is actually a call to shift states. When you feel dissatisfied, it's not the circumstance that needs to change. It's your state of consciousness. Consider how naturally you accept that tomorrow will come. You don't worry about it. You don't try to make it happen. This same natural confidence must be applied to the unfolding of your desires. Your power to create isn't something you need to acquire. It's something you're using every moment. The question is, are you using it consciously or unconsciously? I have observed that those who manifest most easily are those who understand that their state of consciousness is like a frequency they're broadcasting. The clearer and more consistent the frequency, the faster the manifestation. Think about how you feel when you remember something that actually happened. There's a certainty to it, an unquestionable reality. Your desired state must feel just as certain, just as real. Most people spend their lives trying to manifest from a state of wanting, not realizing that wanting can only create more wanting. The secret is to manifest from a state of having. Consider how naturally you accept the air you breathe. You don't doubt its presence. You don't worry about its availability. This same natural acceptance must be applied to your desires. Think about how effortlessly water finds its level. It doesn't struggle. It doesn't force. It simply flows. Your manifestation should come just as naturally, just as effortlessly when you're in the right state. Most people live in a constant state of mental warfare, fighting against their current reality while trying to create a new one. But this very fight creates resistance. The secret is to relax into your desired state as naturally as you relax into sleep. I've witnessed remarkable transformations when people finally grasp that their only task is to maintain the feeling of their desire fulfilled, not through strain or effort, but through natural, relaxed awareness. Consider how easily you differentiate between hot and cold. You don't think about it, you just know. This same level of immediate, unquestioning knowing must be applied to your desired state. The secret that most never realize is this: your imagination isn't showing you fantasies, it's showing you realities that already exist in consciousness. When you truly grasp this, manifestation becomes instantaneous. Think about how naturally you accept that your heart will keep beating. You don't worry about it, you don't try to control it. This same level of natural trust must be applied to the manifestation of your desires. Most never understand that their power lies not in what they do, but in the state from which they do it. The same action taken from different states produces entirely different results. Consider how easily you recognize your own voice. There's no doubt, no questioning. Your desired state must feel just as familiar, just as undeniably yours. Your external world is nothing but your internal state made visible. But this doesn't mean you need to fight against current circumstances. Simply occupy the state where what you desire already exists. I've observed that those who manifest most easily are those who understand that circumstances are shadows. And you can't fight a shadow. You can only change the object casting it, your state of consciousness. Think about how naturally you accept the ground beneath your feet. You don't question whether it will support you. This same unquestioning trust must be applied to the law of consciousness. Most people approach manifestation like it's a battle to be won. But I tell you this, it's a state to be occupied. When you occupy the right state, everything else adjusts automatically. Consider how easily you know whether you're happy or sad. You don't need to think about it. You just know. This same immediate knowing must be applied to your desired state. Think about how naturally you accept that after every night comes day. This isn't hope or wishful thinking, it's knowing. Your desired state must feel just as certain, just as inevitable. Most people live in constant mental turmoil, always torn between what is and what could be. But this very division keeps them stuck. The secret is to be single-minded in your consciousness of the desired state. I've watched countless lives transform when people finally understand that their power lies not in changing things on the outside, but in changing the state from which they view everything. Consider how easily you know your own name. There's no doubt, no questioning, no need for evidence. Your desired state must feel just as natural, just as undeniably yours. The secret that changes everything is this. Your consciousness is like a radio signal you're constantly broadcasting. The universe has no choice but to respond to your frequency. But most people keep changing stations. Think about how naturally you accept that spring follows winter. You don't worry about it. You don't try to make it happen. This same natural acceptance must be applied to the unfolding of your desires. Most never realize that their power lies in their ability to be still. Not physical stillness, but mental stillness. When your mind is truly still, truly at peace with your desired state, that's when magic happens. Consider how effortlessly you recognize your own reflection. You don't need to convince yourself it's you. You just know. This same level of natural recognition must be applied to your desired state. Your external reality is nothing but your internal state projected outward. But this projection isn't something you need to force. It happens automatically when you maintain the right state. I've observed that those who manifest most easily are those who understand that their job isn't to make things happen, but to occupy the state where things have already happened. Think about how naturally you accept that water is wet. You don't question it, you don't doubt it. This same unquestioning acceptance must be applied to your desired state. Most people spend their lives trying to bridge the gap between where they are and where they want to be. But I tell you this, there is no gap except in consciousness. Consider how easily you know whether you're awake or asleep. This knowing isn't something you achieve, it's something you experience. Your desired state must be experienced just as naturally. Think about how naturally you accept that your eyes see color. You don't question it, you don't try to make it happen. This same natural acceptance must be applied to your manifestations. Most people live in a state of constant seeking, always looking outside themselves for evidence of their desires. But this very act of seeking implies absence. The secret is to live from the state of fulfillment. I've witnessed the most profound transformations when people finally grasp that their only responsibility is to maintain the feeling tone of their desire fulfilled, not through force, but through relaxed awareness. Consider how effortlessly you know whether you're hungry or full. There's no debate, no questioning. Your desired state must feel just as undeniable, just as real to your consciousness. The secret that most miss is this. Your imagination isn't simply showing you possibilities. It's showing you realities that already exist in consciousness. Your job is to occupy these realities through feeling. Think about how naturally you accept that ice is cold. You don't need proof, you don't question it. This same level of natural knowing must be applied to your desired state. Most never understand that their power lies not in what they do, but in the state from which they do it. The same action taken from different states produces entirely different results. Consider how easily you recognize your favorite song. The moment you hear it, you know it. Your desired state must be just as instantly recognizable to your consciousness. Your consciousness is like the soil in which all seeds of possibility grow. But most people keep digging up their seeds to check if they're growing, not realizing that this very act prevents growth. I've observed that those who manifest most easily are those who understand that circumstances don't create consciousness. Consciousness creates circumstances. Think about how naturally you accept that fire is hot. There's no doubt, no need for proof. Your desired state must feel just as undeniably real. Most people approach manifestation like it's something they need to achieve. But I tell you this is something you need to allow. It's already done in consciousness. Consider how effortlessly you know whether you're comfortable, or uncomfortable. This immediate knowing must be applied to your desired state. It's not something you figure out, it's something you feel. Let me share something remarkable with you. Last week, a man came to me after one of my lectures. He was successful by worldly standards, wealthy, respected, accomplished. Yet there was an emptiness in his eyes that spoke volumes. He said to me, Neville, I've achieved everything I thought I wanted, but I still don't know who I am. You see, my beloved friends, this is the greatest tragedy of human existence, to live an entire life without discovering your true identity. Most people live and die as strangers to themselves, wearing masks so long they've forgotten their true face. Tonight, I want to share with you the profound truth that has transformed countless lives. The truth that will set you free from all limitations once you truly grasp it. That truth is simply this: you are the living manifestation of God Himself, temporarily dwelling in human form. Now, I know this might sound startling to some of you. You might be thinking, Neville, surely you don't mean that literally. But I tell you, with every fiber of my being, I mean exactly that. Let me share with you why this is not blasphemy, but the very truth that Scripture has been trying to tell us. You see, when God speaks of Himself in Scripture, He uses one name above all others, that's I am. When Moses asked God His name, God replied, I am that I am. This wasn't just some mystical answer. It was the revelation of God's nature, and by extension, your nature. Think about it, my dear friends. What is the one thing you cannot deny about yourself? What is the one thing that remains constant throughout all your experiences? It is the simple awareness of being I am. Before you say I am rich or I am poor, I am successful or I am failing, there must first be this fundamental I am. This I am is God Himself, expressing as you. This is why Jesus said, I and my Father are one. He wasn't claiming something unique to Himself. He was revealing a universal truth about human identity. Let me share an experience that will help illuminate this profound truth. A lady came to me burdened with years of self-doubt and limitation. I asked her to do a simple exercise. For the next 5 minutes, I said, strip away every label you've ever accepted about yourself. Remove every role, every title, every description. What remains? At first, she was uncomfortable with this exercise. Like most people, she had built her identity on external things, her roles, her relationships, her achievements. But as she persisted, something remarkable happened. She touched that pure awareness, that simple I am, and in that moment she knew who she truly was. You see, my wonderful friends, finding out who you are is not a process of accumulating more knowledge or gathering more experiences. It's actually a process of removing everything that you are not until only your true self remains. Think of it this way. If you had a golden statue and it was covered with layers of paint, finding the gold wouldn't involve adding anything. It would involve removing the layers that hide the gold. Your true self is like that gold. It's already there, perfect and complete, hidden beneath layers of accumulated ideas about who you think you are. This is why Scripture says, be still and know that I am God. Notice it doesn't say think about God or study about God. It says be still and know. This knowing comes not through the mind, but through direct experience of your own being. Let me share with you the 3 fundamental truths about your identity that you must grasp. First truth, you are not your body. Your body is something you have, not something you are. You say my body just as you say my car or my house. Whatever you can possess cannot be what you are. Second truth, you are not your thoughts. You can observe your thoughts, which proves you are the observer, not the thoughts themselves. The true you is the awareness in which thoughts appear. Third truth, you are not your roles or your story. All these are temporary expressions, but you are the eternal expresser. These truths lead us to a profound question. If you are not your body, not your thoughts, and not your roles, then who are you? This is where we must enter into what I call the sacred silence of self-discovery. Let me share something profound that happened in my own experience. One night, alone in my room in New York City, I entered into a state of deep contemplation. As I sat there, I began to strip away every concept I had ever held about myself. Layer after layer fell away until suddenly, and I want you to listen to this carefully, I experienced myself as pure awareness, boundless and eternal. You see, this is not just theory or philosophy. This is practical metaphysics that transforms your entire existence. Let me share with you the 3 levels of self-discovery that you must navigate to find your true identity. The first level, the outer self. This is the self that most people live and die as, the personality, the social mask, the collection of habits and patterns that we show to the world. It's like an actor so immersed in a role that he's forgotten he's acting. Let me share a perfect example. A successful doctor came to me, completely identified with his profession. His entire sense of self was wrapped up in being Dr. Smith. When he lost his license due to a false accusation, he fell into deep depression. Why? Because he had confused his role with his reality. You see, my wonderful friends, roles are necessary for the play of life, but they are not who you are. You are the actor behind every role. This brings us to our second level. The second level, the inner self. Beneath the outer personality lies what I call the inner self, the consciousness that observes all your experiences. This is closer to your true identity. But even this is not the final truth. Think about it this way. When you say I had a thought, who is the I that had the thought? When you say I had a feeling, who is the I that experienced the feeling? There must be something prior to thoughts and feelings, something that is aware of them. This is why Scripture says the kingdom of heaven is within you. It's pointing to this deeper level of self, this inner awareness that witnesses all experiences but remains untouched by them. The third level, the divine self. Now we come to the ultimate truth about your identity, what I call the divine self. This is not something to be achieved or attained. It is what you eternally are. It is the I am that never changes, never begins, and never ends. Let me share a profound technique for discovering this divine self. I call it the reverse inquiry. Instead of asking, who am I? Assume the position of pure awareness and ask, who is asking this question? Keep following this inquiry back until you reach the source of all questions. You see, my beloved friends, discovering who you are is not really a process of becoming something new. It's a process of uncovering what you eternally are. It's like the sun hidden behind clouds. The clouds may come and go, but the sun remains eternally itself. This is why Jesus said, before Abraham was, I am. He wasn't speaking of the personal Jesus, but of this eternal I am that is your true identity. You must learn to distinguish between your eternal nature and its temporary expressions. Let me share with you 3 practical exercises for discovering your true self. The first exercise, the silent witness. Throughout your day, practice being aware of being aware. Don't just experience your experiences. Notice that you are the awareness in which all experiences appear. The second exercise, the sacred question. Repeatedly ask yourself, who is aware of this moment? Don't accept any verbal answer. Let the question take you deeper into pure awareness. The third exercise, the divine recognition. Whatever you experience, recognize that you are the consciousness in which it appears. You are not the passing show, but the eternal witness of the show. You see, my wonderful friends, most people spend their entire lives trying to become something, trying to achieve something, trying to gather experiences. But I tell you this, all that effort is taking you away from the simple truth of who you already are. Think about it. When you say I am, you're expressing the same I am that God expressed when he declared I am that I am. This I am is your true identity. Everything else, your personality, your achievements, your roles, these are merely costumes worn by the eternal I am. Let me share something remarkable about this truth. Once you discover who you really are, all effort ceases. You no longer need to try to become anything because you recognize that you are already everything. This is why Scripture says, be still and know that I am God. My wonderful friends, now we come to what I consider the most transformative aspect of self-discovery, the power of recognizing your true self. This is not merely an intellectual understanding, but a living experience that will revolutionize your entire existence. Let me share something profound that occurred during one of my deep meditations. I suddenly realized that everything I had seeking peace, joy, fulfillment was not something to be achieved, but something to be recognized as my very nature. This recognition, my dear friends, is what I call the ultimate revolution. You see, there's a fundamental difference between knowing something intellectually and recognizing it as your very being. Let me illustrate this with a story that perfectly captures this truth. A lion cub was raised among sheep. It bleated like a sheep, ate grass like a sheep, and thought itself to be a sheep. One day, an adult lion saw this peculiar sight and roared with laughter. The cub, frightened, tried to bleat and run away. The adult lion caught him and dragged him to a clear pool of water. For the first time, the cub saw his own reflection alongside the adult lion's. In that moment of recognition, something profound happened. The cub didn't become a lion. He recognized that he had always been one. This, my beloved friends, is exactly what must happen to you. You are not becoming God. You are recognizing that you have always been the very expression of God himself. This is why Scripture declares, "Know ye not that ye are gods?" Let me share with you the 3 stages of self-recognition. The first stage, the recognition of presence. Begin by recognizing that before you are anything, you are. Before you are male or female, rich or poor, successful or unsuccessful, you simply are. This pure sense of being, this I am, is your first clue to your true identity. Think about it. You never experience yourself as absent. You might experience different states, different circumstances, but you never experience your own absence. This is because you are the eternal presence in which all experiences appear. The second stage, the recognition of awareness. Now go deeper. Recognize that you are not just present, but you are aware. This awareness is not something you have, it is what you are. Everything else appears and disappears in this dareness awareness. But the awareness itself never changes. Let me share a practical exercise I call the awareness watch. Throughout your day, whenever you remember, notice that you are aware. Don't try to analyze or understand awareness. Simply recognize that you are the awareness in which everything appears. The third stage, the recognition of identity. This is the deepest recognition that this awareness, this presence, is not just a quality you possess, but is your very identity. It is the I am that God declared himself to be. You see, my wonderful friends, most spiritual seekers make a fundamental mistake. They try to reach God, try to connect with God, try to become one with God. But I tell you this, you cannot reach what you already are. You cannot connect with what you've never been separated from. You cannot become what you eternally are. Let me share with you what I call the 3 great illusions that prevent self-recognition. The first illusion, the illusion of separation. You believe you are separate from God, separate from your good, separate from what you desire. This is the fundamental illusion that must be dissolved through self-recognition. The second illusion, the illusion of becoming. You believe you must become something other than what you are. This keeps you perpetually seeking, never finding. The third illusion, the illusion of distance. You believe that what you seek is far away, in some distant future or place. This prevents you from recognizing what is already here, already you. Now let me share with you a profound technique for dissolving these illusions. I call it the recognition practice. Sit quietly and follow these steps. Recognize that you are aware right now. Recognize that this awareness is not something you created or achieved. Recognize that this awareness is the same awareness that God declared as I am. Recognize that you are this I am. You see, my dear friends, the scripture says, be still and know that I am God. Notice it doesn't say become God or reach God, it says no. This knowing is recognition. Let me share something remarkable about this recognition. When you truly recognize who you are, everything changes while nothing changes. The world remains exactly as it is, but your experience of it is completely transformed. Consider this profound truth. The sun doesn't need to do anything to be the sun. It doesn't need to practice being the sun or try to become a better sun. It simply is what it is. And from that natural state, it illuminates everything. In the same way, once you recognize who you really are, you no longer need to try to be anything. Your natural state is complete fulfillment, complete peace, complete joy. These are not states to be achieved, but your very nature to be recognized. Let me begin with something that happened just yesterday. A gentleman approached me after my lecture, deeply troubled. He said, "Neville, I understand intellectually that I am God's perfect expression, but my daily experience shows me something entirely different. This, my wonderful friends, is the gap we must bridge, the gap between intellectual understanding and lived experience. You see, living from your true identity is not about adding anything to yourself. It's about removing the veils that hide your true nature. Let me share with you what I call the 3 veils of forgetfulness. The first veil, the body identity. Most people are completely identified with their body. They think I am this body. But I tell you this, you are not the body, you are the consciousness that animates the body. Your body is in you, you are not in the body. Let me share a profound exercise I call the consciousness shift. Throughout your day, whenever you remember, shift your identity from body to consciousness. Instead of thinking I am walking, recognize I am aware of walking. Instead of I am eating, recognize I am aware of eating. You see, this simple shift begins to loosen the grip of body identification. It's like stepping back from a movie screen and recognizing that you are the awareness in which the movie appears. The second veil, the thought identity. Deeper than body identification is thought identification. People believe they are their thoughts. But ask yourself this, if you are your thoughts, who is aware of the thoughts? Let me share something remarkable about thoughts. They come and go, appear and disappear. But you, the awareness in which thoughts appear, remain constant. You are not the passing clouds of thought, but the unchanging sky of awareness. Here's a practical technique I call the thought witness. Throughout your day, practice watching your thoughts without becoming involved in them. See them as clouds passing through the sky of your awareness. Don't try to change them or control them. Simply witness them. The third veil, the story identity. This is perhaps the subtlest veil, the story you tell about yourself. Your past, your failures, your successes, your relationships, all these form a story. And most people completely identify with this story. But I tell you this, you are not your story. You are the awareness in which all stories appear. This is why Scripture says, "Behold, I make all things new." When you recognize your true identity, you are free to create a new story at any moment. Now let me share with you the 3 stages of living from your true identity. The first stage, recognition throughout the day. Begin by recognizing your true nature as pure awareness throughout your daily activities. Whether you're at work, at home, or in conversation, maintain the recognition that you are not the doer, but the awareness in which doing happens. I call this the constant recognition practice. No matter what you're doing, maintain the background awareness of your true nature. Like a screen that remains unchanged, while different movies play upon it. You remain the unchanging awareness, while life's experiences flow through you. The second stage, living from wholeness. Most people live from a sense of lack, constantly trying to add something to themselves to become complete. But when you recognize your true identity, you live from wholeness. Let me share a profound truth. Everything you seek, peace, joy, love, abundance, these are not things to be achieved, but your very nature to be recognized. When you live from wholeness, you no longer seek anything because you recognize that you are everything. Here's a practical application I call the wholeness recognition. Before you begin any activity, recognize that you are already complete. You are not doing the activity to become something. You're doing it as an expression of what you already are. The third stage, divine expression. This is the highest stage of living from true identity. Here you recognize that every action, every word, every thought is not yours, but God's expression through you. You see, my wonderful friends, when Jesus said, I and my Father are one, he wasn't making a personal claim. He was declaring a universal truth about your identity. You are not a human being trying to express divinity. You are divine being expressing through human form. Let me share with you what I call the divine expression practice. Throughout your day, before any action, silently acknowledge God himself is expressing as this action through me. This transforms every mundane activity into a sacred expression. Now, let me address something crucial. Some of you might be thinking, but Neville, if I am divine being, why do I experience limitations and problems? This is where we must understand the difference between your true identity and your current state of consciousness. Your true identity is like the sun, eternally shining. But your state of consciousness is like the clouds that can temporarily obscure the sun. The sun hasn't changed or diminished. It's simply hidden from view. This is why Scripture says, put off the old man and put on the new man. The old man is your limited state of consciousness. The new man is your true identity as divine being. For you see, while your true identity never changes, your experience of life is determined by the state of consciousness you occupy. Let me share something remarkable that happened during one of my experiments with consciousness. I was in New York, physically present in my small apartment, but I had learned to occupy the state of consciousness of being in Barbados. Within weeks, against all physical evidence and probability, I found myself actually in Barbados. This, my dear friends, is the power of consciousness. You see, states of consciousness are like rooms in a vast mansion. Your true identity, the I am, is the inhabitant who can move from room to room. Let me share with you what I call the 3 levels of conscious transformation. The first level, recognition of states. Most people are completely identified with their current state. If they're in a state of lack, they believe they are lacking. If they're in a state of illness, they believe they are ill. But I tell you this, you are not the state. You are the awareness that can occupy different states. Let me share a practical technique I call the state observer. Throughout your day, practice observing your current state without identifying with it. Instead of saying, I am depressed, recognize I am aware of experiencing a state of depression. This simple shift begins to free you from identification with states. The second level, movement between states. Once you recognize that you are not the state but the occupant of states, you can learn to move between them at will. This is what Scripture means when it says, in my Father's house are many mansions. Here's what I call the state shift practice. Choose a state you wish to occupy, let's say the state of abundance. First, recognize that this state already exists. You're not creating it, you're moving into it. Then ask yourself, what would I be thinking, feeling, and experiencing if I were in that state right now? You see, my beloved friends, this is not imagination as people commonly understand it. This is the actual movement of consciousness from one state to another. The outer world must then reorganize itself to match your new state. The third level, permanent transformation. This is the highest level of conscious transformation, where you learn to stabilize in higher states of consciousness. Let me share something profound about this level. Most people visit higher states occasionally, moments of peace, joy, or clarity, but they don't know how to remain there. They're like someone who visits a beautiful mansion but doesn't know they can live there permanently. I call this the divine occupation. It's the art of not just visiting but occupying divine states of consciousness. Here's how you practice it. First, choose a tuned state. Let's say the state of perfect peace. Second, recognize that this state is your natural state as divine being. Third, instead of trying to achieve peace, assume you are peace itself. Fourth, live from this assumption regardless of external circumstances. Now let me share with you what I call the 3 obstacles to transformation that you must understand and overcome. The first obstacle, mental habits. Your old patterns of thinking will try to pull you back to familiar states. This is why Scripture says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Let me share a technique I call the pattern breaker. Whenever you catch yourself in an old thought pattern, Stop and ask who is aware of this pattern. This immediately shifts you back to your true identity as the awareness. The second obstacle, emotional attachments. Even when we want to change, we often have hidden attachments to our current state. This is why Jesus said, "Let the dead bury their dead." Practice what I call the emotional release. Recognize that your emotions are not you. They are experiences passing through you. You can let them go because you are the unchanging awareness in which they appear. The third obstacle, physical evidence. The physical world will continue to show you evidence of your old state while your new state is taking root. This is where most people falter. Remember this profound truth: the physical world is not the cause of your state of consciousness. It is the effect. When you maintain a new state despite contrary evidence, the evidence must change to match your state. Let me share with you the 3 laws of conscious transformation. The first law, the law of consciousness. Whatever state you occupy in consciousness, you must express and experience. The second law, the law of assumption. You become what you assume yourself to be. The third law, the law of expression. Your outer world is the expression of your inner state. My dear friends, tonight we enter into the very heart of conscious transformation, the practice of perfect states. This is where we move beyond mere understanding into the actual art of living from enlightened consciousness. Let me share something remarkable that occurred just last week. A lady came to me in deep distress about her financial situation. Instead of trying to change her circumstances, I showed her how to occupy the state of divine abundance. Within days, opportunities began appearing that she hadn't seen before. You see, it wasn't the world that changed. It was her state of consciousness. Let's explore what I call the 3 perfect states that form the foundation of enlightened living. The first perfect state, divine love. Most people think of love as an emotion or a relationship between separate beings. But I tell you this, divine love is a state of consciousness, your natural state as divine being. Let me share a profound practice I call the love recognition. Throughout your day, recognize that love is not something you feel, but what you are. Instead of trying to feel love, recognize that you are love itself expressing. You see, when Jesus said God is love, he wasn't describing a quality of God. He was describing God's very nature, which is your nature. This recognition transforms every relationship because you're no longer trying to get love or give love. You're being loved. The second perfect state, divine wisdom. Wisdom is not accumulated knowledge, but a state of consciousness that knows through direct recognition. It's what scripture means by be still and know. Here's what I call the wisdom practice. Before making any decision, shift from thinking to direct knowing. Instead of analyzing pros and cons, enter the state of divine wisdom and let the answer reveal itself. You see, my wonderful friends, when you occupy the state of divine wisdom, you have access to all knowledge. This is why Solomon didn't ask for knowledge. He asked for wisdom, and all knowledge was included. The third perfect state, divine power. True power is not the ability to control or dominate, but the state of knowing that all power flows through you as divine expression. Let me share the power recognition practice. Throughout your day, recognize that any power you express, whether thinking, speaking, or acting, is not your personal power, but divine power expressing through you. Now, let me share with you the 3 stages of practicing perfect states. The first stage, recognition. Begin by recognizing that perfect states are not something to achieve, but your natural condition to realize. Like the sun doesn't practice shining. It simply is light. You don't need to practice perfection. You need to recognize your perfect nature. Practice what I call the perfect recognition. Throughout your day, before any activity, recognize, I am the perfect expression of divine being expressing as this activity. The second stage, occupation. This is where you learn to fully occupy perfect states regardless of external conditions. Most people let circumstances determine their state. But I tell you this, you must determine your state regardless of circumstances. Here's a profound technique I call the state occupation. Choose a perfect state, let's say divine peace. Now occupy that state completely, letting go of all resistance to current conditions. You're not trying to change conditions, you're occupying the state that will naturally transform them. The third stage, expression. This is where perfect states become your natural way of being. You no longer need to think about occupying them because you recognize they are your true nature. Let me share what I call the three aspects of perfect expression. First aspect, spontaneous expression. Perfect states express spontaneously without effort or planning. Second aspect, complete expression. Perfect states express completely, not partially or gradually. Third aspect, eternal expression. Perfect states express eternally, not temporarily or conditionally. Now let me address something crucial about practicing perfect states. Many people ask, but Neville, how can I maintain perfect states when the world shows me imperfection? Remember this profound truth: the world you see is the outpicturing of your state of consciousness. When you occupy a perfect state, the world must transform to match that state. This is why Scripture says, "Be ye perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect." Let me share with you what I call the three keys to maintaining perfect states. The first K, absolute recognition. Recognize that perfection is not a future achievement, but your present nature. The second key, complete acceptance. Accept your perfect nature without trying to improve or change it. The third key, natural expression. Let perfection express naturally without forcing or controlling.
Let me ask you something that might shake your entire worldview. What if you've been approaching success completely backward? What if, instead of working to become victorious, you simply needed to assume the feeling of victory now? You see, most people live their entire lives waiting to feel victorious. They say, when I achieve this goal, then I'll feel like a winner. But I tell you this, you must feel like a winner first, and then the achievements will naturally follow. Consider this: every great achievement in history began with someone who acted as though they had already won before any physical evidence existed. They carried themselves with the confidence of victory while others saw only defeat. Let me share something profound with you about the nature of victory. Victory isn't an event. It's a state of consciousness. When you truly grasp this, your entire world will transform. You see, most people are waiting for circumstances to make them feel victorious. But I tell you this, circumstances don't create your feelings create circumstances. Think about how you carry yourself when you know you've won something. There's a certain swagger in your step, a gleam in your eye, a confidence in your voice. This is the state you must adopt now, before any external evidence exists. Most of you sit here tonight thinking about your goals, your dreams, your aspirations. But I tell you this, as long as you see these things as future achievements, they will remain in the future. You must live from the end now. Consider what happens when you truly adopt the attitude of someone who has already won. Your entire world must reshape itself to match this new self-concept. This is law. Let me share with you what happens in consciousness when you assume the feeling of victory. Your entire being shifts. Your posture changes. Your voice carries new authority. Your decisions come from a place of confidence rather than fear. Let me tell you something profound about this victorious attitude. When you truly embody it, you're not pretending. You're claiming your natural state. Victory is not something foreign to you. It's your inherent nature. You see, most people approach life from a position of hoping to win. But I tell you this, hope is just another form of doubt. When you know you've already won, there's no need for hope because certainty has replaced it. Consider how differently you move through the world when you know the game is already won. You don't stress about small setbacks. You don't worry about temporary obstacles. You move with the calm confidence of someone who knows the final outcome. Let me share with you what happens when you maintain this victorious consciousness consistently. People begin responding to you differently. Opportunities seemingly appear out of nowhere. Doors that were closed suddenly open. Most of you have been taught to wait for victory to feel victorious. But I tell you this, that's exactly backward. You must feel victorious first, and then victory will manifest in your world. You see, this attitude of victory isn't about arrogance or ego. It's about aligning yourself with your true nature. When you act like you've already won, you're simply acknowledging what's already true in consciousness. Think about how you breathe when you're victorious. It's deep, it's confident, it's relaxed. This is how you should be breathing right now, regardless of current circumstances. Let me tell you about the transformation that occurs when you maintain this state. Your decisions change because you're no longer operating from a place of fear or lack. You make choices as someone who knows they cannot fail. Most of you sit here tonight thinking about past failures, current struggles, future uncertainties. But I tell you this, all these are irrelevant when you adopt the consciousness of victory. Consider this: every time you doubt, every time you worry, every time you fear, you're denying your victorious nature. You're choosing to act from a consciousness of defeat rather than victory. Let me share with you what happens in the depths of your being. When you truly embrace this victorious attitude, your entire nervous system begins to operate differently. Your body language changes automatically. Your voice carries a new resonance. You see, most people are waiting for something external to give them permission to feel victorious. But I tell you this, the only permission you need is your own decision to embody victory now. Consider what happens when you walk into a room knowing you've already won. Not hoping, not wishing, not planning to win, but knowing with absolute certainty that victory is already yours. The entire atmosphere changes. Let me tell you about the subtle shift that occurs in your relationships when you maintain this victorious consciousness. People begin treating you according to your own self-concept. They respond not to your words, but to the victory you radiate. Most of you have spent years rehearsing defeat in your mind, imagining worst-case scenarios, preparing for failure. But I tell you this, every time you do this, you're denying your victorious nature. You see, this attitude of victory transforms even the smallest actions of your day. When you know you've already won, even the way you sip your morning coffee changes. Everything becomes an expression of victory. Think about how you make decisions when you know you cannot fail. You move with boldness, with certainty, with absolute conviction. This is how you should be moving through every moment of your life. Let me share with you what happens when this victorious consciousness becomes your natural state. You stop asking, what if I fail? Because failure becomes impossible in your consciousness. You only see paths to victory. Most of you have been conditioned to believe that victory must be earned through struggle and hardship. But I tell you this, victory is your natural state. The struggle comes from resisting this truth. Consider how your entire world must reshape itself when you maintain this consciousness consistently. Everything that doesn't align with your victorious nature must fall away. When you truly embody victory, you're not just changing your mindset, you're altering the very fabric of your reality. You see, most people spend their lives preparing for victory, planning for victory, hoping for victory, but I tell you this, all of that preparation is useless if you don't assume the feeling of victory now. Consider what happens when you wake up each morning already feeling victorious. Your morning routine becomes a victory lap, not a preparation for battle. Your breakfast isn't fuel for the fight. It's a celebration of success. Let me tell you about the transformation that occurs in your work when you maintain this consciousness. Tasks that once seemed daunting become opportunities to express your victorious nature. Challenges become stages for your triumph. Most of you have been taught that confidence comes after achievement. But I tell you this, achievement comes after confidence. When you act like you've already won, success becomes inevitable. You see, this victorious attitude completely transforms how you handle setbacks. When you know you've already won, obstacles become merely temporary illusions, stepping stones to your already secured victory. Think about how differently you approach problems. When you know their solution is guaranteed, the stress dissolves. The anxiety vanishes. All that remains is the calm certainty of inevitable success. Let me share with you what happens when you maintain this state consistently. Your entire being begins to radiate victory. People feel it when you enter a room. Opportunities are naturally drawn to you. Most of you sit here tonight thinking about all the things you need to do to become victorious. But I tell you this, victory isn't something you become. It's something you express right now. Consider this. Every time you postpone feeling victorious until after some future achievement, you're pushing victory away. Victory must be claimed in the present moment. Let me share with you a deeper truth about this victorious attitude that will revolutionize your understanding. When you act like you've already won, you're not pretending. You're aligning with an existing reality in consciousness. You see, most people approach victory as something distant, something to be achieved through struggle and effort. But I tell you this, victory exists right now in your consciousness, waiting to be recognized and expressed. Consider what happens in your financial world when you maintain this victorious consciousness. Money ceases to be something you chase and becomes something naturally drawn to your victorious state. Success becomes your natural expression. Let me tell you about the transformation that occurs in your physical energy when you embody this attitude. Fatigue disappears because you're no longer fighting against life. You're flowing with your natural victorious state. Most of you have been taught that victory requires sacrifice, struggle, and pain. But I tell you this, those are just stories you've accepted. Victory is your natural state, requiring no struggle at all. You see, this victorious attitude completely transforms your relationship with time. When you know you've already won, you stop rushing. You move with the confident pace of someone who knows their triumph is secure. Think about how you breathe when you know you've already won. It's deep, relaxed, confident. This is your natural breath when you're aligned with victory. Adopt this breath now. Let me share with you what happens when this victorious consciousness becomes your default state. Your dreams no longer seem distant or impossible. They become natural expressions of your victorious nature. Most of you sit here tonight wanting to know the exact steps to victory. But I tell you this, there are no steps to what you already are. There's only recognition and expression. Consider this. Every time you doubt yourself, every time you feel uncertain, you're temporarily forgetting your victorious nature. These moments of doubt are simply opportunities to reclaim your true state. Let me reveal to you something profound about acting victorious that most will never grasp. When you embody victory in every moment, you're not just changing your behavior. You're awakening to your true identity. You see, most people treat victory like a distant destination, something to reach after long journeys of effort. But I tell you this, victory is your starting point, not your destination. You begin from victory, not journey toward it. Consider what happens in your mind when you truly grasp this truth. The endless chatter of doubt falls silent. The constant questioning of, am I good enough, disappears. All that remains is the quiet confidence of victory. Let me tell you about the shift that occurs in your physical presence when you maintain this consciousness. Your posture naturally straightens. Your movements become more graceful. Your entire being radiates an unmistakable authority. Most of you have spent years trying to overcome fear, doubt, and insecurity. But I tell you this, you don't overcome these things. You simply outgrow them by maintaining the consciousness of victory. You see, this victorious attitude transforms every interaction in your life. When you know you've already won, conversations change. Meetings change, relationships change. Everything must align with your victorious nature. Think about how you make decisions when you know success is guaranteed. There's no hesitation, no second guessing, no fear of consequences. This is your natural state of being. Let me share with you what happens when you maintain this state consistently. Your entire world begins to mirror your victorious consciousness. Opportunities that once seemed impossible become natural occurrences. Most of you live constantly preparing for future success, future victory, future achievement. But I tell you this, as long as you place victory in the future, that's where it will remain. Consider this, every moment you spend doubting your victory is a moment spent denying your true nature, your victory itself, expressing itself through your unique form. Let me share with you a truth so profound it will transform your entire approach to life. When you act victorious, you're not just putting on a show. You're tuning into the frequency of your natural state. You see, most people spend their lives reacting to circumstances, letting external events determine their inner state. But I tell you this, when you maintain the consciousness of victory, circumstances must conform to your inner state. Consider what happens to your creative abilities when you operate from this victorious consciousness. Ideas flow effortlessly. Solutions appear spontaneously. Innovation becomes your natural expression. Let me tell you about the transformation that occurs in your sleep when you maintain this victorious state. Your rest becomes deeper, more rejuvenating, because you're no longer battling with doubt and uncertainty in your dreams. Most of you are being taught to be realistic about your expectations. But I tell you this, what's realistic to the victorious consciousness far exceeds what's realistic to the consciousness of limitation. You see, this victorious attitude completely revolutionizes how you handle challenges. When you know you've already won, obstacles become opportunities to demonstrate your mastery. Think about how you speak when you know victory is certain. Your words carry authority. Your voice resonates with conviction. Your communication inspires confidence in others. Let me share with you what happens when this victorious consciousness becomes your constant companion. Your very presence becomes a catalyst for positive change in others. Your victory inspires their victory. Most of you sit here tonight thinking about all the reasons why victory might not be possible. But I tell you this, those reasons exist only in a consciousness that has forgotten its true nature. Consider this. Every time you embrace limitation, every time you accept defeat, you're choosing to temporarily forget who you really are. Victory is not something you achieve. It's something you remember. Let me reveal to you something about victory that will forever change how you approach every moment of your life. When you act victorious, you're not pretending. You're acknowledging your innermost truth. You see, most people chase success like hungry wolves chasing prey. But I tell you this, when you embody victory, success chases you. It becomes the natural expression of your being. Consider what happens in your body. When you maintain this victorious consciousness, your immune system strengthens, your energy increases, your entire physical being aligns with this elevated state. Let me tell you about the transformation that occurs in your daily habits when you live from this state. Activities that once felt like obligations become celebrations of your victory. Work becomes play. Challenges become adventures. Most of you have been programmed to believe that confidence must come after achievement. But I tell you this, achievement is merely the outer confirmation of the victory you've already claimed in consciousness. You see, this victorious attitude completely transforms your perception of time. Past failures lose their sting because you realize they were simply stepping stones to your current victory. Think about how you walk when you know you're victorious. Your stride lengthens. Your steps become purposeful. Your entire movement expresses the certainty of success. Let me share with you what happens when this victorious consciousness becomes your moment-to-moment reality. Synchronicities increase. Favorable circumstances multiply. Life itself seems to conspire for your success. Most of you have spent years building defenses against failure. But I tell you this, when you maintain the consciousness of victory, there's nothing to defend against. Victory is your natural state. Consider this. Every anxious thought, every worried moment, every fearful anticipation is simply a temporary forgetting of your victorious nature. Return to victory now. Let me share with you the final and most crucial understanding about victory that will complete your transformation. When you maintain the consciousness of victory, you're not becoming something new. You're returning to your original state. You see, most people spend their lives seeking validation from the outer world. But I tell you this, all validation, all confirmation, all proof of your victory must first be established in consciousness. Consider what happens when you move through your entire day from this victorious state. Meetings become opportunities to express your mastery. Challenges become platforms for demonstrating your power. Every moment becomes a celebration of victory. Let me tell you about the final piece of this transformation. When you truly grasp that you've already won, all struggle ceases, all fighting ends, all resistance dissolves. What remains is pure, effortless expression of victory. From this moment forward, I want you to make this sacred commitment to yourself. Promise that you will never again act from a consciousness of defeat. Promise that you will maintain this victorious attitude regardless of appearances. You see, this is the moment where everything changes. This is where you stop seeking victory and start expressing it. This is where you cease struggling to become victorious and simply be victory itself. Think about tomorrow morning when you wake up. Will you rise as the same person who started listening to this message? Or will you rise as victory itself, ready to express your true nature? Let me share with you this final truth. There is no power that can defeat you except your own acceptance of defeat. When you maintain the consciousness of victory, the entire universe must rearrange itself to match your conviction. This is your moment. This is your victory. This is your true nature expressing itself through you. Rise up now, not as someone seeking victory, but as victory itself. Move forward, not as someone hoping to win, but as someone who has already won. Live not as someone becoming victorious, but as victory personified. For in this recognition lies your freedom. In this understanding lies your power. In this knowing lies everything you have ever desired. Go forth now, with the absolute certainty that victory is not your destination. It is your starting point. It is not your goal. It is your nature. It is not your future. It is your eternal now. Let every breath you take be a breath of victory. Let every step you take be a step of triumph. Let every word you speak be a declaration of success. For you are victory itself, expressing itself through your unique form. You have always been victory. You will always be victory. This is your final understanding. This is your ultimate truth. This is your eternal knowing. You are victory itself. And so it is. Rise now and live from this truth. The world is waiting for your victory to express itself. The end is where we begin, for victory was never something to achieve. It was always something to express. Express it now. Express it always. This is your victory. This is your moment. This is your truth. Now and always. Victory is yours.